Okay, good afternoon, Cedar Bridge. Good to see you here. Also, a welcome to those who are joining us online. We are also glad that you're here. I'm going to get started with some announcements. Some of this is going to be a repeat of the information that you see in our newsletter, but it is worth mentioning again because some of this stuff is super important, and we want your participation. Before I get started going through all the newsletter information, I just want to wish Scott, our #1 tech guy in the back, a happy birthday. Thank you for making it all happen so that you can see us and hopefully hear us and all the things. Okay, Ash Wednesday is coming up. Our service is going to be this Wednesday at 7 o'clock in this room in person this Wednesday. To that end, regarding Ash Wednesday and the Lenten season, we have these Lenten activities. Every Sunday, we are going to be offering another activity. These are for our families with children. They are on the back table. If every family will pick up, with small children, will pick up one, it is a scratch-off card. And so every day, beginning on March 1st, which is Tuesday, you're going to scratch off whatever that date is. It's kind of like the Advent calendar, but Lent. You're going to scratch off, and there's going to be opportunities, activities, things to do together as a family as it relates to Lent. So these are going to be on the round table in the back by the computer and soundboard. So please make sure you pick one up when you leave today, and then we're going to have these available for the next couple Sundays. So just want to make sure you grab that. Also, in our newsletter, we introduced the fact that we are going to be doing a special video in recognition of our birthday, which is coming up. If you haven't heard us talk about that, then I'm not sure where you've been, but we're super excited. Our birthday is coming up, and we are going to be celebrating on March the 13th. And we want to do a video that commemorates and acknowledges and celebrates all the ways God has been working in our church through each of us. And so we introduced the idea of a cardboard testimony. There was a lot of information in the newsletter about what a cardboard testimony is. Basically, it is a written way, it's a written message of transformation. And so what we need from you is your participation. We want as many of you as possible to participate by sharing your cardboard testimony with us. And in the newsletter, Laura did a great job of giving you lots of examples of options. She went through the Dream Doc. She went through all of our social media messages, private conversations that others have had with our pastor and some of us about how Cedar Bridge is changing and transforming their lives. So if you yourself do not have your own, then we could still use you in holding up someone else's message of transformation. But we need to get these videoed as soon as possible because there's a lot of time that's going to be involved in actually making the video. So if you would please stay after worship today. We have the poster board, we have the markers, we will write for you. We just need to get you for about 15 to 20 seconds on camera. Laura, raise your hand. Laura is going to be here after worship, and she is going to facilitate this process. So if you will please stick around. We want our video to be as diverse as possible. If you cannot stick around today, or you feel like you just need a little bit more time, Laura will also be here at 6:15 on Wednesday prior to our Ash Wednesday service. So come prepared Wednesday at 6:15 as well. Very casual. We'll meet in here, 15 to 20 seconds. Easy breezy. So we're really excited about that, and we hope that you are as excited as we are. The next thing that I want to mention to you, if you have seen our Cedar Bridge family Facebook page today, that's a Facebook community just for us. You read about the story of a college student who is going on a mission trip to Greece. She is reached out to us, and she is a part of the LGBTQ community and does not have very many affirming people in her life who are being supportive of her fundraising efforts. And we really would like to be able to come alongside of her and help her raise money to go to Greece. On the Facebook page, there are examples of dine around opportunities coming up in Greenville, where if you go eat at a certain restaurant on a certain day, a percentage of the sales will go towards her. But if you want more information about that, if you want to give to her, she has a goal of $2,000 to raise so that she can go to Greece and share the love of Jesus with others. Check out our Facebook page to find out some ways that you can help her with her fundraising. And we had our second Cedar Bridge wedding in the past couple of weeks, so we just want to say congratulations to Lauren and Joe. Happily ever after. We are thrilled to be able to celebrate all of life's big moments, and that is certainly a big one, so congratulations. Before I lead us in our call to worship, is there anything else that we need to share with the group? Okay. I'm going to get my phone on. I borrowed this call to worship from an Instagram post, and I regret to inform you I cannot give the author credit. But these are not my words. I got them from Instagram. So what I thought that we would do is I would just invite us all to just get into a posture of prayer. And we have a lot of heavy stuff that has been going on in our world and our community in the past couple of weeks. The Eastern North Carolina residents who died in that tragic plane crash, the unrest that's going on in the Ukraine, the governor of Texas attacking our most vulnerable communities. The list could go on and on and on. And so what I invite you to do right now is just to pray quietly for those things and other things that are just weighing on your heart, and then I will conclude us with a specific prayer for the Ukraine. Let us pray. Lord, hear the prayers just brought to you by your people and this call to worship. Oh God of peace, our hearts are heavy and our brains can barely keep up with the breaking news. We don't know what to say or what to do in a world so wounded. So we come to you with hearts heavy for all who sit in the crossfires of violence and acts of war. O God of peace, please be with the people of the Ukraine, with the mothers who carry babies to subway shelters, with the fathers who hold their heads in new hands, with all the children who absorb these traumas of violent acts of powerful men. O God of peace, we do not know the words to pray for a hurting world and for all who are vulnerable in it. We do not pretend to know the extent of the damages or what tomorrow or even today will bring, but we know that you are a God of peace, and we cannot bomb our way to shalom. O God of peace, comfort the crying and heal the hurting. Tend the aching and soothe the fearful. Make us instruments of your peace, creating a sacred symphony where rhythms of grace are danced upon and evil has lost its sting, now and forevermore. O God of peace, hear our prayer. Amen.
Would you all stand as you're able and sing with us today? Praise to the Lord, the Almighty, the King of creation. Oh, my soul, praise Him, for He is your health and salvation. All you here, now to His temple draw near. Join me in glad adoration. Praise to the Lord over all things, so wondrously reigning. Shelters you under His wings, oh so gently sustaining. Have you not seen how your desires have been granted in His wise ordaining? Praise to the Lord, who with marvelous wisdom has made you, decked you with health and with loving hand, guided and stayed you. How often grief has He not brought you relief, spreading His wings for to shade you. Praise to the Lord, oh let all that is in me adore Him. All that has life and breath, come now with praises before Him. Let me, O man, sound from His people again. Gladly forever adore Him.
This next song is All Creatures of Our God and King. Let us remember as we go into the Lenten season that it is for all of us the grace of God and that He laid down His life for us. And so let us gather together and worship Him, all creatures of our God and King.
All creatures of our God and King, lift up your voice and with us sing. Alleluia, alleluia. The burning sun with golden beam seated.
For thousands of years, every morning and evening, Jewish people have prayed these well-known words as a way of expressing their devotion to God. They're called the Shema. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. And as for you, you shall love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, and with all of your strength. We're going to look at the last word, strength. The Hebrew word is ma'od, and it occurs some 300 times in the scriptures, and it doesn't actually mean strength. There is a perfectly good word for strength in Hebrew, and ma'od is not it. In fact, the Shema is one of the only places in the whole Bible where ma'od is translated as strength. So what's up with that? The most common meaning of ma'od is very or much. It's what grammar nerds call an adverb, a word that comes alongside other words to augment their meaning. For example, in Genesis chapter 1, God looks at the world that he's made, and 6 times he calls it good. But then the climactic 7th time, he says it is ma'od good. That is, very good. Later in Genesis, in the story of Noah, the flood waters keep rising and they become ma'od powerful, or extremely powerful over the land. In the story of Cain and Abel, Cain wasn't just angry at his brother, he was ma'od angry. Or when Saul became the king of Israel, he was ma'od happy. So you can see why ma'od occurs hundreds of times in the Bible. It's a really common Hebrew word that intensifies the meaning of other words. Very this, or really that. However, biblical authors could use ma'od in ways that are unique. Like when they want to increase a word's force to total capacity, they'll say ma'od twice. So Jacob became ma'od wealthy with flocks and camels and donkeys and servants. Or the Israelite spies went to investigate the promised land and they say, the land we passed through is ma'od good. So it's pretty clear, ma'od doesn't mean strength in terms of muscle power, but rather very or much. So let's come back to the Shema, where people are called to love God with all of their heart, that is their will and affections, and with all of their soul, that is their whole life and physical being, and with all of their ma'od, that is with all of their muchness. And while that sounds kind of funny, you also kind of get it. If ma'od can intensify any word's meaning to total capacity, then this final thing that you use to love God isn't a thing at all. It's actually everything. Loving God with your ma'od means devoting every possibility, opportunity, and capacity that you have to honoring God and loving your neighbor as yourself. It's the most wide and expansive word in the Shema. Ma'od can refer to almost anything. Which raises one last and really fascinating point. Because this word was capable of many nuances of meaning, ancient Jewish communities interpreted ma'od in the Shema in different ways. So the ancient Jewish scholars who translated the Hebrew Bible into Greek, when they came to ma'od in the Shema, they translated it with the Greek word dunamis, that is, power or strength. This is the interpretation adopted by most modern translations. But if you look at the ancient Aramaic translations of the Hebrew Bible, you'll discover that these scholars interpreted ma'od to mean wealth. Money is a concrete thing that opens up all kinds of opportunities to love God by giving away resources. And when Jesus was asked about the most important command in Scripture, he quoted the Shema, and he used 2 words to unpack the meaning of ma'od. He said, love God with all of your mind and with all of your power. Both are human capacities that can be used to love God in an infinite number of ways. So, which of these interpretations of ma'od is right? Does it mean strength, or wealth, or mind? That's the wrong question. The word ma'od doesn't limit the number of ways you can show love for God, just the opposite. The point is that everything in a person's life, every moment and every opportunity, every ability and capacity offers a chance to love and honor the one who made you. It's a call to love God with all of your muchness. And that's the meaning of strength in the Shema.
Hey, Cedar Bridge family. So lately, we've been looking at what it means to really live out loving the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. You know, when Jesus was asked, Rabbi, what's the greatest commandment? Jesus said, and he quoted from Deuteronomy, The greatest commandment is this: love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. And a second is like it, meaning it's just as important. Love your neighbor as yourself. So over the last few weeks, we've looked at what does it mean to really live out, love the Lord your God with all your heart. That your heart really focuses and encompasses all of your calling, your passions, your desires. We've looked at what it means to love the Lord your God with all of your soul, that your soul is really host to all of the connectivity of all of the parts of you, that loving God with all your soul is loving God with the fullness of every part of you. Last week we talked about what it means to love the Lord your God with all of your mind, your intellectual self, that to love God with all of our mind means we make it an actual decisive choice to live the way that Jesus described, which is countercultural and often not the way the world describes for us to live. So today we are finishing up our Alive in the Teachings of Jesus series with focus on loving the Lord your God with all of our strength. What does it mean to love the Lord with all of our physical self? You know, our strength is really focusing a lot on our physical self, our entire ability, capabilities. What does it look like to ground our physical self in love of God? You know, our physical self is how we experience God, and it's how we are able to live out God's love to others. What does that teach us about how we love God?
So learning to love God with all of our strength is about learning to love God with all of ourselves, with all of our muchness, with all of our miod. So the Hebrew word miod has a multiplicity of meanings, most often translated power or strength. Have you ever wondered when Jesus is asked, what's the most important commandment? And he quotes the Shema in Deuteronomy. That says, love the Lord with all your heart, soul, and strength. Jesus adds mind. And it really seems like that Jesus is reinterpreting the translations of the Shema. Jesus is reinterpreting the translations of the word miod. See, Jesus is bringing fullness to our interpretation of the Hebrew scriptures. Jesus is talking about miod in a way that is bigger than it was previously thought to be. How does Jesus expand and enliven and awaken our idea of what it means to love God with all of our miod, with all of our power, might, all of our muchness, all of our body, all of our strength? We're going to look at a passage in Luke 9 as we talk about this. So for the last few weeks, we've been talking about Jesus' teaching in Luke, known as the Sermon on the Plain. You know, after that period of teaching, the disciples and Jesus moved on. They healed several sick. There was the feeding of the 5,000 plus. Really, it's 5,000 men. So if you add in the women and the children who weren't counted by the people who wrote down things of the Bible, but definitely were counted by Jesus because he provided for them way more than 5,000. So Jesus and the disciples are doing all these things. They're doing all the things that Jesus had called and chosen the disciples to go with him to do. They are casting their nets wide and drawing back abundant life. They are living and experiencing and showing others a life that is full, that is healthy, that's overflowing, that's abundant. They are not living a hungry life like those 5,000 were. They are living a life that is baskets full to the brim left over. They're doing all that with Jesus. And we're going to pick up and read a little bit in Luke 9 today. Listen to this, starting with verse 28. Jesus took Peter, James, and John with him and went up to a mountain to pray. As he was praying, the appearance of his face changed, and his clothes became as bright as a flash of lightning. Two men, Moses and Elijah, appeared in glorious splendor talking with Jesus. They spoke about his departure, which he was about to bring about into fulfillment at Jerusalem. Peter and his companions were very sleepy, but when they became fully awake, they saw Jesus' glory and the two men standing with him. As the men were leaving Jesus, Peter said to him, "Master, it is good for us to be here. Let us put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." And Luke's really clear to tell us he did not know what he was saying. While Peter was speaking, verse 34, a cloud appeared and covered them, and they were afraid as they entered the cloud. A voice came from the cloud saying, "This is my son whom I've chosen. Listen to him." When the voice had spoken, they found that Jesus was alone. The disciples kept this to themselves and did not tell anyone at that time what they had seen. So Jesus takes Peter, James, and John to pray with him. Peter, James, and John get to see Jesus' face glowing, Jesus talking with Moses and Elijah. Peter says, "Hey, this is awesome. Let's camp out right here. Let's build houses and I'll just stay. And wouldn't that be amazing?" Because why not, right? I mean, Jesus, Moses, and Elijah are all glowing and shiny, and this seems about as abundant as life can get. So let's just stay all right here. Then they hear God's voice, much like they heard God's voice when Jesus was baptized, only instead of, "This is my beloved son, I'm well pleased with my child." This time God says, "This is my son whom I've chosen. Listen to him." I've thought a lot about this passage. Why were Peter, James, and John there? Why were they there? They got to experience something incredible that no other disciples got to see on that day. They didn't even talk about it with anyone. The experience was so profound. There are experiences that sometimes change our lives forever, and we can't put into words what that means. We carry these experiences, all of them, the good ones and the harmful ones. We carry them with us, and we carry that in our present bodies. Peter, James, and John were able to experience something that had the capacity to change their perspective of who Jesus was and who they were as companions of Jesus. Moses and Elijah weren't no names. Moses, Exodus 34 tells us that when Moses came down from Mount Sinai after being given the 10 Commandments by God, that Moses' face was shining so brightly that everyone around him was too scared to even go near him. Moses had to cover his face with a veil. Everyone ran away. Moses covered his face and talked with the people. And then when Moses was alone with God, he uncovered his face and let the glory of God shine off of him. Moses was physically changed by his experience with God. Moses' body looked different from being with God. Sometimes I wonder why this was. So why did Moses look different? I mean, why did that happen? I wonder about that. And I wonder sometimes if it's maybe because God knew Moses might need some reminders that God had been with him, that God was with him, that God had chosen Moses to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. God knew that it was going to be difficult. God knew that the people were going to be difficult, that the times were going to be difficult, that Moses would struggle. Sometimes I wonder if God thought, Moses is going to need reminding that I chose him. He's going to need reminding that I am with him. And maybe glowing skin was a good way to remind Moses of that. I wonder if the same thing was true for Peter, for James and John, and this experience with Jesus. Because Jesus knew what was coming. Jesus knew that Peter, James, and John would need a physical reminder of who Jesus is, that they would need a physical memory, a presence, a physical presence to remember how important their role was in walking with Jesus and listening to Jesus and eventually carrying out the work of Jesus after Jesus wasn't with them anymore. And this physical reminder, this memory of this time, this experience that they were so affected by they couldn't even talk about with others. This experience, this seeing Jesus standing and glowing and talking with prophets of old, this reminder of who God is, of who Jesus is, and of who Peter, James, and John are. That experience mattered. You know, our experiences matter to God. Our physical selves matter to God. Our bodies are gifts. Our bodies are gifts with the power to really anchor us and ground us in the present moment. And really, our heart and soul and our mind can't do that like our body can. For it's in our bodies being in the present moment that we feel and experience love. It's in the present moment in our bodies with people that we learn how to be loved and we learn how to love others. When we're not really present in our bodies, we miss out on opportunities to be God to others and to receive God from others. So our bodies matter. And we really need to believe, probably accept and believe that our bodies are sacred. You know, the church has had a long history of shame regarding bodies. There's been lots of misapplication of scripture, quite honestly, and misconstruction of teaching that has insinuated that anything that is of our physical self is fundamentally flawed and prone to sin, while the only things that are spiritual and holy would be the spiritual parts of our soul. And I think this is one of the biggest theological errors that the church has ever made. You know, there is no separating our body from our soul. There is no separating of spiritual and physical. We are human beings, which makes us spiritual and physical beings. You know, the church has kind of tried to teach us, okay, like read Genesis and skip past the first 2 chapters, which describe our original blessing, our creation as God's beloved. Just go straight to chapter 3 and focus instead on the fall, sin, and problems. And I really think we sort of risk missing the whole point when we do that. Our invitation as Christ followers is to live and love as Christ does. And that is an incarnational invitation. It's incarnational. There's an invitation to understand that Christ lives in us. That Jesus is both fully divine and fully human. That divinity and humanity are not mutually exclusive states of being. In Jesus, we see the divine and the human coexist in one person. Want to know what God looks like? Look at Jesus. Want to know what divinity looks like? Look at Jesus. Want to know what a fully developed human living in wholeness looks like? What humanity looks like in its fullness? Look at Jesus. Jesus is the answer to both of those questions. Loving God with all of our strength means we have the divine image and presence in us as well. And we tend to just deny this divine nature and say, but yeah, that was Jesus and I'm not Jesus. And that's true. We are not Jesus, but we are called to be this incarnational presence of Christ on this earth. We are called to use our physical self to be Christ to others. See, I think this experience that we see in Luke 9 of Peter, James, and John witnessing Jesus transfigured before them, talking with Moses and Elijah. I think that experience, Jesus made sure that they were able to see that, to be present in their body for that. And it was given to them to be a memory, to be a reminder. Hey, this is who I am, and this is what it looks like to walk with me, and this is what it's like to carry this on. This that you're seeing right here, this transfigured, glowing presence of God is what you have living in you. See, we're gifted by God with these bodies that are able to love and comfort and make sense of the world, to serve with our hands, to love with our arms, to march for justice and equality with our legs. Loving God with all of our strength means that we consciously use our bodies to make a positive difference for love in this world. It means that we respect our bodies, we treat them as sacred, and we use them to their fullest capacity to make a difference for Christ. Because the truth is, we've received both healthy images and messages and unhealthy messages regarding our bodies over time. You know, society says your body must look a certain way. Art over time tells what the going look is for a body in culture. A body that is tall, a body that is thin, a body that now is short and plump, a body that has big hips or little hips. You know, history has chronicled what bodies should look like. And history has burned, broken, and killed bodies that were the wrong shape, the wrong ethnicity, the wrong color, the wrong identity, the wrong gender. It takes work to reclaim all of our fullness, all of our muchness, all of our yod, to say that we are living in a body that is to be honored and respected and thanked and taken care of. And that begins with us believing that about ourselves. You know, as you are gathering today, I am checking in at a Franciscan retreat center and spending a few days in solitude and unscheduled retreat time, and then taking a little time this week to take some time to rest, to take care of my body. Folks, I'm terrible about this, and I know I'm not the only one. Everyone else can have some rest and some time away and this and that, and yes, do that. But I'm fine. I can handle it. I don't need time away. How many of you have said everyone else deserves to have that break, but just let me get a few more things done. Just let me knock a few more things off my list, and then maybe I can sit down. Everyone else can take a nap in the middle of the day, but wait, I've got to get this done and this before I have a minute to breathe. You know, part of loving God with all of our strength, with all of our miod, with all of the muchness of our body, is that we listen to our bodies. We rest when we need to rest. We move when we need to move. Our church believes this so much that we made wellness one of our core values. And I can't encourage you to live into it if I'm not willing to live into it myself. You know, it takes work to claim the body that we have is to be respected and honored and taken care of. And I'm going to give you a little challenge this week. I want you to do a few things to check in with your body. So take a few minutes sometime this week and check in with your physical self. What do you feel like? What do you need? Are you tired? Do you need rest? Are you overworked? Do you need a nap? Do you need better food choices that give you better energy? Do you need to move a little bit more? Do you need to get up a little earlier or go to bed a little earlier? Or what is it that your body needs? Figure that out and do that. You know, we don't have glowing skin to remind us that we've been with God. We don't have skin that shined bright like Moses to remind us that God was with us and is with us. But we have the presence of Christ in ourselves. We have the presence of Christ in each other. The only way that we can remind ourselves that we need to take care of our bodies, to love the Lord with all of our strength, is to remind ourselves of what God says about our physical selves. That we as a whole are beloved. That we as a whole are created in the image of God. And that means your body, your physical self, your muchness is not too much for God. That God can take whatever your body is giving you. But God asks us to pay attention to what our bodies are telling us. Let that be our reminder that Jesus is in us, and we're to live that out to others. So may you learn to love with all of your heart. May you experience love with all of the passion, desire, and calling of your heart. And may you learn to love with all of your soul, to love all parts of your soul and all of the connections and relationships that are within you, your relationships with God, with yourself, with others. And may you explore what it is like to intellectually decide with your mind what it looks like to love God, to make a decisive action to love God with all of your mind, your intellectual self. And may you believe that your body is sacred and worthy of love. May you remember that God is with you through Jesus. May you learn what it is like to love God with all of your muchness, all of yourself, all of your strength, all of your physical self. Grace and peace, friends.
We come now to a time of response. We have several ways that you can respond during this time. One of those ways is in the baskets to either side of me. One of those baskets is for prayer requests. Our pastor, Amy Andrews, and our prayer team pray over those prayers every week. So those don't just go unread and never seen ever again. You will also find a basket for tithes and offerings that you can bring. And finally, on those tables, you'll see communion. And this week, we do return to the model of intinction communion. However, if you prefer to not dip your bread in the same cup, we do have the self-serve varieties, we'll call them, Beth, at the back middle table. We also have gluten-free options at the back table there if that's a dietary restriction you might have. And finally, everyone that ever participates here at Cedar Bridge is a ministry partner in everything that we do. But if you'd like to increase your participation in the church just a little bit, and you'd like to become a covenant partner, on the table over to the side there, the round table, you'll find a book there, and if you wish, you can sign your name and become a covenant partner with Cedar Bridge as well. So we invite you to respond as you wish. You can certainly stay there where you're sitting while we sing. You can stand and sing with us, or you can move about the room. So feel free to do so. Bible song is one of my favorite hymns for the beauty of the earth. Go in strength and peace.